I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
Nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Hello, everyone. Today we have J.D. Hill on the podcast today. J.D. is with Kinetic Vet. He is one of our big sponsors for our Liberty and Loyalty Foundation. Last year, he was with the sponsor on the head side for the military first responder open. So what this man and what his company also does for our military and first responders is a huge impact in what we're doing with that foundation. His products are going to be anyone that's interested in equine and beef and treatments and supplements for basically our equine partners that we're riding, and for breakaway ropers being able to kind of know a few things to be able to give your calves and stuff when they start getting sick, because I'm sure right now with this spring, this weather's going up and down, and I don't know if anyone's seen what the cattle prices are to be able to save these animals and to prolong some of these sicknesses and then just treatments and stuff like that for our horses is going to be fun to sit and have this podcast where we can talk about a lot of these things. So, JD, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you, Charlie. Glad to be here.
We had a clinic scheduled there in Kentucky, there in Greenville, and Mother Nature had other things to say.
Yeah, we
had a little weather.
Had a little weather for the last 4 or 5 days. F3, F4 tornadoes, 14 inches of rain. We could have had it probably somewhere on the arc if Noah would have been around, but we couldn't work that out.
My pucker factor for some of these clinics has been a little high in the fact that I was there in North Carolina, 30 miles from where all that hurricane hit. I was literally in a hotel when that stuff was blowing right over the top of me, and luckily I was 30 miles west of there, or I'd have been right there in the middle of it. So I was a little puckered on this one, too. I was like, man, I've already been through some pretty historic storms on this clinic tour.
The pucker factor this past 4 or 5 days has been fairly high.
Yeah. I mean, it canceled it covered roads, flooded, all kind of stuff. So yeah, we was basically the night before having to call it,
right?
And on my way here to the clinic. So, but what the fun part is it's not a bad place to hang here in Nashville. So we've had a couple days. We got to go to Kid Rock's bar last night, and this big ass honky tonk. Man, some great bands again. Danny and I went the night before. We tried to kind of explore a little bit more of Nashville. Like, I was a big Bon Jovi fan. His bar was not very entertaining. I think we lasted 15 seconds.
It was a letdown.
Big letdown.
I'm an 80s kid, so.
Me too. I mean, I loved, Bon Jovi big time, them and Def Leppard. And then Hank Jr., big fan of his. And his was cool, but man, I'm telling you what, that Kid Rock just puts on a show.
Nothing compares to Kid Rock.
Man, I don't know if he does a lot more screening when it comes to getting these singers in there, but man, the last couple that I've seen, man, they rocked. Yeah. They filled the joint.
The band was phenomenal last night.
Yeah, I love music, and they did it. They brought up a lot of good tunes.
The genres that they covered. I mean, everything from Journey to Van Halen to Kid Rock to Green Day, you name it. They played it. And they nailed it.
They did nail it. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. So we are working on rescheduling this clinic. Maybe we're looking at fall, possibly September, maybe October.
Yeah.
So we'll be for the people in the area. We'll be looking to reschedule in this clinic there in Greenville, possibly Greenville, Kentucky again.
Right.
So we'll be looking out. And as soon as we get dates, I'll put it on my website and we'll get it on social media.
Yeah, we'll take care of that on social media on both ends, on Charlie's end and my end. So we'll reschedule that for sure. It's been a great. This would have been our 4th year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've had some pretty good memories.
Yeah, we have.
Remember when we had that little boy right there sticking for me, and I healed that steer on foot?
Still got the video. And it still comes up at roping sometimes. Somebody will come up to me at a roping and say, "Hey, you got that video where Charlie Crawford healed that steer on foot?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm afraid I do. I got it."
Just for everyone that knows, that steer was trotting way faster than he looked.
He was actually walking.
I had over and under my horse. Yeah. I had over and under my feet just to get there.
It's a cool video. It needs to be put back out on Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, that little man spun me a good one. Man, it was awesome.
That was his, Charlie gave him the tag name of Pickle. Great kid. He turned his first steer ever at 8 years old. His dad was a little reluctant about having him go to the horn for the first time. And I think Charlie, after about watching him rope probably 5 or 6 head, came over to us and said, he's ready. And sure enough, he stuck it on one. He turned it, got a nice gray horse that he rides. And that kid's been hooked ever since.
Well, I tell you what, the clinics that we've done enough with the young kids, and especially boys, it's a natural habit that when you pull your slack in one dowel, you want to look down and your left hand wants to go left.
Yeah.
And so to be able to kind of fight those natural instincts and learn how to develop that left hand after your slack to be able to continue to keep riding your horse is so important. So when you have these clinics like this, you know, that first one, I remember a lot of young kids, if not all of them. And it was really fun because I've done a few of them up there in Michigan where we had a kids only clinic. And then once we get that developed, and when they start turning steers, they're able to stay safe. And that's my main concern, is making sure we keep these digits on these kids, because the natural instinct is to pull your slack and go left and dally. And that's some of the things that can get people in binds bigger than anything. So getting that developed and to keep them safe so they can have fun doing it.
Yeah, you hit it on a good point there, because my wife and I were involved with junior high and high school rodeo quite a bit. And you get these moms, especially moms, that come up to me and say, you know what? The best money we ever spent was sending, little Joe to Charlie's clinic down there at the Muhlenberg County Ag Center, because it taught them horsemanship, how to handle their horse in a situation when they went to dally, and to handle a steer. That was the main point.
Yep. No, and it is. And then once you get that foundation done, in your roping and your riding, then it seems like we can kind of strategize and touch it up from there. But man, those key points in the foundation to be able to stay safe, to me, has helped, I think, so many young kids to learn to do it right.
Ropers, are you ready to step up your game? My online course, The Basics of Roping, is built for beginners, but packed with tools to help ropers of all levels sharpen their skills. With over 2 hours of instruction, frame-by-frame swing breakdowns, when to turn your hand over to keep your loop open, when and where to let go of your rope so you can get the horns in the middle of that loop, over 15 dummy drills to simulate real-life runs, you'll have everything you need to improve. Go to charlycrawford.training and follow the link under the course tab to get started today.
Even those little cowboy or those little roping dummies, you learn to rope on foot. A lot of times them kids will rope them things so much, they'll rope and just step left till they get it in front of them.
Exactly.
Well, then they have the same problem when they get on their horse. It's good to rope those things. It really is. It develops so much roping to where you can learn how to get the run. But then, okay, now when we get to our riding technique, we're going to have to we'll have to remold a few of the things that when you were playing roping that created other habits, bad habits mainly. Yeah. And so sometimes it's got to have a recorrect, but I think it's still good to rope everything, get to where you can handle that rope.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed the first couple of years when you came up to Greenville is keeping those kids with their seat in the saddle, not standing up in the stirrups and reaching over the top, and those
keeping
things.
that balance.
Yeah, keeping that great balance. Yeah, that was something that really stood out to me.
Yeah. Well, I was bummed that we didn't get to do it, but like I said, being here in Nashville, man, I love this city. This is cool. I really like it, man. I love music. Everyone's so nice. Man, great culture.
I've been coming down here since my days in college, because I went to college only 30 minutes up the road.
That would not have been healthy for me.
Well, they said I had a good time down here back in the 80s, but there's some things I remember. There's some things I don't. Some things I don't want to remember. But, Nashville's a good town. It's a clean city. It's safe. It's got a family atmosphere. Even though you hear the word honky tonk bars, there's still some places where you can go in and have a meal, hear good music, take the kids. It's not the atmosphere of what you would think a typical honky tonk would be.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. It was clean. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to a Kill Tony event. Like I said, I like comedy. I like being able to go laugh, especially on my off time. And me and Danny went there. It was fun. It was really fun to get to see one of them shows. I've only seen it a little bit on YouTube, and so to go see it live was pretty cool. Then yesterday we got to go to the Johnny Cash Museum, and it was cool to see
awesome.
some of that. And then today we're going to the Grand Old Opry.
Yep.
That we're headed after this, and so. But yeah, it's fun. And then tonight we go to Kid Rock's Comedy Bash. I'm really excited about that. Hard part about these comedy shows, though, is like they don't put the lineup. You never know who you're going to watch. I don't know if that just keeps the surprise or the anticipation or what, but it'll be exciting to see that. I've never been to one of those, and all I know is that Kid Rock, man, is a hell of an entertainer. I've seen that in his bar. I've been to probably 10, maybe 12 of his concerts. I'm sure there's a couple I forgot, but I know how that guy can entertain, so I can only imagine how much fun this is going to be tonight.
Yeah, this will be a first for me tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I heard also Nashville's got a rodeo coming to town.
Yep. May
Long overdue.
29th and 30th, I think, over here at, I believe it's Bridgestone Arena.
Is it same place that Kill Tony event was at then?
Yeah.
That to me, this is long overdue. This is, to me,
Way
I don't know
overdue.
how rodeo and country music hasn't gotten, because I mean, it used to be country western music, right? Well, it just seems now it's just mainly country. I haven't seen much western. The only one kind of promoting western to me right now is Kojo. You know, I think George Strait was, and then Kojo. So western has kind of gotten out of the culture a little bit. So like, and it fits. So I don't know why. Oh, this is a perfect place for a rodeo.
Well, we've had bits and pieces of it here, like the PBR. We've had, the local yokel team ropings, the jackpots, and the qualifiers for the, the World Series and things like that, and the American. But it's never been put together in a total event before for the PRCA or any other, organization associated with rodeo. So, yeah, I agree with you 110%. This is a hotbed. The connection between country music and rodeo,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's no brainer.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully that'll start kind of filling that void a little bit.
I hope so.
It'd be cool to have some good rodeos in Memphis and Nashville.
Because I only live 30 minutes away.
Exactly. Well, so I'd love to talk about your guys' product with Kinetic Vet and what you do there for them. And because I think this is going to be so good to be able to have a lot of listeners, just talking about things that you can help treat so many things that we have issues with the equine animal. And so what is Kinetic Vet?
Well, Kinetic Vet is now in a family of 5 new companies. We're under the umbrella of SEMA Animal Health now, and our equine division is now called Creative Science, which Kinetic Vet is a part of. But I originally, of course, how we met Charlie, I was the national sales manager for Kinetic Vet, which was primarily equine with a couple of bovine products. But Kinetic Vet started in the early 90s, developed by 2 veterinarians in Lexington, Kentucky, Dr. Stuart Pierce, Dr. Scott Pierce, they're brothers. Dr. Scott Pierce was one of the original founders of Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, the largest equine hospital in the world. So great foundation there. Started in the developing of derm products for horses, skin issues. Whether it be scratches, hives, insect bite, hypersensitivity, sunburn on these bald-faced horses, the grays, the paints, things like that, wound care. And then we went into joint care. That became our second level of development. And it just evolved from there. 19 years worth of love and labor that, has helped the horse world and horse folks in general.
So did you say there was a merger going on, you said, with Kinetic Vet?
Yeah. It's already taken place. The companies that were involved is, of course, Kinetic Vet, Arenas Animal Health, EMSA, which is a supplement company started by Dr. Riley, who's probably world-renowned on the natural healthcare product lines, nutraceuticals. We also have the Bannex wound care line, which is more of the, as far as wound care goes, we'll just call it the over-the-counter feed store type wound care product that your folks would go in and pick off the shelves at your local mom and pop tack store. A new company that we just brought into the fold a week ago is Asteria, which is the developer and manufacturer of Alpha 2, which is a PRP product, which is in the human world, and of course in the equine world now, we call it regenerative medicine, where, the veterinarian pulls blood from the horse and then spins it down into its platelets and then re-injects it into the body where the point of the problem is. Whether, let's just say, you've got a stifle problem in a horse, or you've got a joint issue, whether it be a hock or a knee, or you've got a fetlock, or you've got something going on in a shoulder. Though that replenishing of those, its own body rejuvenation going back into that horse helps rebuild the tissue. That's what you're really working with, is that injured tissue, ligament, tendon, spacing, anywhere. You're looking at horses that have had kissing spine surgery that may have reoccurred injuries. They're injecting that in those areas as well. The big one that we're looking at now that we also have on the market that we're excited about is the one that is used for respiratory issues and also the bleeders. It's used in nebulizers. It also can be used in horses that are asthmatic, that have asthma issues. So I think that's going to be the really big one in, your team ropers, your breakaway ropers, your barrel racers that already know more about using nebulizers than I'll ever know.
Yeah, because we're dealing with that right now. Jackie's roan horse has breathing issues, so we're going through that right now.
Yeah, so it's nebulizers have been used with the silver iodine oxides and all that for years. The different, for a better word, I'm going to say concoctions that people have used with nebulizers, because you're not quite as old as I am, but when I was a kid and you got a cold, your mom would get a hot towel and a steaming pot and put your head over it and put, some type of menthol under your nose, and you'd breathe that for probably 15 to 30 minutes and it'd clear you up. It just helped your respiratory system. It'd get into your sinuses, your lungs. You'd breathe in that steam and that menthol air and it would clear you up. Well, that's kind of what a nebulizer does.
Got it.
Yeah.
What about some of the symptoms when we talk about, navicular, colic, founder? Those are issues, it feels like, that a lot of people go through. What products do you have and recommend for, say, the navicular horse? Let's start with that.
Well, we've got a few products that are based on the EMSA line. The navicular one is something that years ago we had nothing. I even remember my dad as a kid, getting formaldehyde, or arsenic or strychnine, something to get, blood either stopped or blood flowing. So it was one or two of the issues. You either have too much or too little. So with the EMSA line, we have products that are available for that, and also products that deal with the other side of that issue is founder. So we've got the Hero product, and it's not the hero as in the Marvel comic hero. It's Hero spelled HEIRRO, because we're dealing with insulin resistance in these horses. You get some of those horses that you put out on this new spring grass that places are getting around the country right now. And, what's a horse going to do? He's going to eat till he can't eat anymore. He's just going to keep eating. That's why we keep feed away from horses in our barns, eat like a horse. That's an old saying. So we want to keep these horses that you put out on grass that you don't, let's say it's a new horse, or it's a horse that is just now reaching that stage of life where he's not being able to handle the protein, the glucose, the sugars, and everything that comes out of that new grass. And all of a sudden he comes to the barn one day, or you get him up, you're getting ready to tack him up, take him to the roping pen or whatever, and he's gimped. I mean, he's as crippled as I am, and we don't know what's going on. You know, the first sign of founder, you look at these horses and start getting overweight. You know, they're just, founder is a word typically used for those horses that get those crusty necks, you know, getting the bellies. You know, it's insulin resistance. They can't handle it. So this product is a naturally herb-based product. It won't test. It's a feed additive that you just top dress daily, very inexpensive. And it's, you know, here's the thing with top dressings and the word nutraceuticals. I, for one, grew up in the era, where I wasn't a fan. You know, I wanted something in a needle, give it an injection real quick, science-based, from a vet that I knew that came and worked on our cattle when I was a kid. Hey, took care of our horses too. Doc, what you got? You know, I wasn't that guy that went to the store or checked in Western Horseman, flipped through the pages. We didn't have the internet when I was growing up. You know, you had to find Western Horseman or the AQHA Journal to find your products. So we depended more on the veterinarian, and as a company, we still do. We're more veterinary based because veterinarians develop these products.
Right.
So that's where we want to keep this in line with our business structure and with the end users, is that we are veterinary and science based. And I think that's very important for the horse world to know, that you look at those products that are out there that are associated with scientific papers, scientific studies, test after test after test, field trial studies, more field trial studies, because safety concerns now today with the price of horses. I mean, my gosh, we've got to be safe with our products that we put in our horses. And I think that anything that's veterinary based and veterinary backed is a safe way to go. So again, with this founder issue and the Hero and the EMSA product lines, I think we're very well covered when it comes to Dr. Riley and his products.
Awesome. What about colic and tie-up? Because I know that we talked about colic earlier this morning, and you guys have a product that's very interesting to hear about.
Yeah.
Love to hear about that. We talk about tie-up after that, but I'd love to get on the colic subject right now on some of the products you have.
Yes. So the colic issue, the product line that we have is Arenas Animal Health. And with that product line, we have a colic assurance program. And basically what it is, for a better word, you enroll your horse in this program through your veterinarian. The veterinarian provides the product. You purchase the product. You can purchase the product online from an authorized dealer. Let's say an NRS or someone of that level. It could be drovers. I could name 10, but those are the ones that I'm associated with in our companies. But the horse is eligible for up to a $15,000 reimbursement for colic surgery, which is a pretty good chunk. You know, that's going to be the high end range for a colic surgery these days. You have to have prior history. You can have prior history of colic with your horse and still be able to enroll. So that's a little unheard of in some programs. You know, a lot of companies, even insurance companies, won't insure you if your horse has had a colic surgery before. So with this one, you can have prior history of colic surgery. This can be medical and surgical. You know, there's different kinds of colics. You know, there's a twisting of the gut, or there's sand colic.
Yeah.
You know, there's different things. So, and you can also have this can cover you overseas. If you travel to South America, if you travel to Europe, if you travel to any foreign country,
Australia.
you're
I hear about it in Australia and Hawaii.
Yeah, you're covered internationally.
Hmm.
So that's another good point with this program. There's no age restrictions. I think that's the biggest plus there. I mean, you still got horses competing in their 20s now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen some rope horses that are 22 years old, 23 years old that still got a fire in them.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm sure you've seen some up in their high teens and maybe even 20 still in the PRCA. I know some dogging horses are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Clint Summers got a transmission. That one's right now one of the top horses at the NFR. That dun horse that came from the Adams family. Yeah, so there's still some that are they're keeping them sound. You know, there's products that are keeping these horses performing at a high level.
Well, and you know, the subject we're talking about today is over the last 2 decades has made a difference in that because we take such good care of our horses now. You know, I mean, look at you. What you've done over a 20-year period, you know, it's your livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You know, you don't let the oil run out of your truck.
Yep.
It's what we do now. Again, no age restrictions, and there's no limit on the number of head of horses that you can enroll. So that's a plus for, I mean, you're looking at your average, you know, family now that is involved in high school rodeo. It's probably a minimum of 4 head of horses, especially if there's 2 kids. You know, all the different events.
The different events.
You got to have different horses. I mean, now you got, well, not now, but even I know 15 years ago, we took some kids to the national finals in Rock Springs, Wyoming. We had to take a horse for goat tying. We had to take a horse for barrel racing. We had to take a horse for pole bending. We had to take a head horse. We had to take a hill horse. And we had
breakaway
to take
horse.
Breakaway horse.
Then you got the cutting.
Exactly.
And, you know, some of them now are, you know, got some fence work in there. So, yeah, there's a guy could load up a couple trailers going to this high school rodeo event.
You're not kidding. And this program is also available for leased horses. And I think that's a plus because that involves not only the Western world, but the English world with eventing people because they lease a lot of horses. And sometimes you'll see it in the barrel racing and in the team roping too, when somebody gets in a jam and needs a horse and, you know, they got to go find one. If they don't have good friends like Charlie Crawford, they'll let you borrow one.
Chad Masters.
Yeah, Chad Masters. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. You have to go lease something.
Yeah.
So
what about tie-ups? Is there anything on that?
We don't really have anything right now, but we are in development.
Because I know there's
products.
You know, that is kind of something where horses do struggle with the feed and grass and stuff like that.
So here's where branch chain amino acids come into play. And there is a product and 2 or 3 other products on the market for tie-up right now that's out there that we do have in development. And we may even go into the realm of buying another company. I know there's talks of it, that we may possibly have a product that's for horses that tie up. But right now, we don't have anything in our arsenal that...
so be staying tuned.
Yeah, please do.
Mm-hmm.
But with our product line right now, I'll just say to the listeners that if you want something for those horses that are tying up, anything that's a BC2A, they call them, a branch chain amino acid, it's great for horses that tie up.
What about, you was talking a little bit about breathing earlier, you know, for like barrel horses, and there's a few head horses that you see because they will exert some opening up blood vessels a little bit. It's mainly, you can see it a lot on the track, but like the bleeders.
Yeah. So we can go back to this Alpha 2 product with the nebulizer that seems to be helping the EPIH horses, those bleeders that were once on Lasix, you know, and it's been banned. You know, you can't use it anymore because it tests. So you see a lot of these horses on this Alpha 2 product now, especially in the thoroughbred world that are in the racing industry, that were prominent bleeders, being nebulized with the Alpha 2 product.
What about joints and arthritis? You know, we talk about supplements and things like that.
Yeah, so that's the number one topic in the horse owner world that competes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because most people that get into team roping or barrel racing, the average Joe like me doesn't have the knowledge or the horsemanship or the money or, let's just say, the connections to go out and buy a 3-year-old and start him the right way, like you guys do, and have a young horse and develop him and have the time to get him to that age to where he's rock solid, or she. So what we do, we go out and find a 15-year-old that may have a little arthritis that we have to maintain. But
that's something I highly recommend on a lot of beginner ropers is going the older route and then a little maintenance.
Yeah.
But they know their job.
Exactly.
I see so many people that are getting in binds, buying them 3 and 4 year olds and thinking that they work like a 15-year-old, getting in binds and getting hurt and worse. And so, yes, this is something I highly recommend for those guys coming into the industry, is looking for some of them older horses, but not being scared off by some of the maintenance issues you have, because this is where we're able to fill in the concerns right here.
It's so inexpensive to take care of one now. It's not like it used to be 30 years ago. If one got a big knee, you got rid of him, or you pawned him off on your sister or something as a trail horse. Now they've got second lives, whether it's, injections or it's the topical feed additives that we have on the market now, like the products that we have, Conquer Liquid. It's just a straight HA that you pour on top of their feed, and you're getting probably 900,000 Daltons and I don't know how many milligrams of HA per serving, but it's the required dosage in a topical feed additive that, it's palatable. They don't muddle it around in their feed. They get it in their system. I will say that the topical feed additive is not as fast acting as it would be going to a vet and having those hocks injected or those knees injected or the stifles or what have you. But again, you have to look at the level of cost you want to be at and what level of performance you're at and where you're competing to.
Now you're talking about HA, so what do you define that?
Hyaluronic acid, HA, what it does, it helps regenerate the synovial fluid within the joint. And synovial fluid is, all mammals have it. We have it in our joints. You see HA on the market now in the beauty supply world for, good looking people like you and me and some women. They're putting it on their face.
Yeah.
It helps with wrinkles and things like that. But HA's been out for a long time, and it was developed in the equine world by the first joint injections was developed by a veterinarian and some scientists at Colorado State, Dr. C. Wayne McElraith. And for those of you that are closer to 60 than you are 40, you'll remember a product called Legend that came out.
I do.
That was manufactured.
I use that quite a bit.
That was manufactured by Bayer Animal Health at the time. I actually worked for that company back in the 90s. And there were train loads of that product shipped straight to Lexington, Kentucky for the horses that were running on the track at that time. And the great thing about that product is, Charlie, when a horse comes up with a bad right knee, he's just like us. If we sprain our leg on the basketball court, we're going to overcompensate. Maybe we're put on crutches for a while. We don't know, but we're going to get sore someplace else because we're bearing our weight off of that sore injury. And then a week later, that left ankle.
Now you're creating issues in the other side.
Yeah. Or,
I've seen it a lot in the foot growth.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how all of a sudden now the feet start changing because you got one heel that's collapsing because it's got all the weight put on it, and another one that's the no weight bearing. The heel's growing too high, and so I've seen it a lot just with feet.
So folks, you're seeing the old farrier coming out, Charlie Crawford right now. He knows
those survival skills. They never go away.
That's right. So that's where some of that corrective shoeing comes in, where you're trying to, compensate for that injury. Well, the good thing with Legend and some of these, most all HAs that are on the market now, they can be injected IV, goes throughout the entire system. You get that synovial fluid regenerating throughout the entire body, so every joint's taken care of. And now they're using it as maintenance doses. So,
the stuff you sent me for Cotton was, he had come back from an injury and always kind of stiff. You can see there's joint, things probably going on, arthritis. And when you sent me that stuff I noticed within probably a month, it seemed like, 'cause I remember texting you and I could see a difference,
right?
Just in the way he was moving. And I give it a lot of credit and kind of what helped kind of get him back to that top level again.
You bet. Yeah. These horses that get a little age on them, and even the young horses that are being used a lot. I mean, you got to remember they're athletes. So if they're being used and you got to remember, 1,200 pound animal coming down to dragging a 5-weight steer or coming to a stop at, 20 miles an hour, hunkering down on their hocks. I don't think we actually realize the force that it takes for these animals to work sometimes. And sometimes injuries happen that we don't notice for months. But because some of them are so tough-minded, tough physically, strong-willed, whatever you want to call it, they're not going to quit on us. So we see it later down the road, and the injury occurred 6 months ago. We don't pick it up, and then the damage is done. So we're trying to figure out a way to get this horse back, right?
Well, that's a lot of where your PRP comes in too.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer.
It has been. And I tell you what, we're going to see more and more. I think we've just touched the surface on this regenerative medicine, even on the human side. It's just phenomenal. And I think in the equine athlete, kissing spine has been a big topic, the kissing spine surgery over the last few years. And I think PRP and these products like Alpha Asteria is going to kind of take over a little bit in that world because, I think you're going to, because whenever you say the word surgery, you think, well, is it going to work or is it not? But we're looking at some, procedures here that take a little more time, but I think long term we have better results.
Well, I've just been hearing about it just in, humans, when I've got back issues, the amount of LD has been on me about getting me down there to Mexico. Her and Trevor go down there and, they go get that PRP done with their shoulders and backs and all that stuff and come back and just, I know Kelsey Domer, she just went down there too, and knees and things like that, and I think shoulders. And man, I've heard everybody that comes from there is just talking about how much better they feel, because it seems like if there's not some sort of maintenance, like that's able to keep you from getting surgery, then now you got to go through surgery, and that is tough. Well, this stuff's been around in the horse industry for a long time. You said, correct?
Yeah, it has.
From the tracks, correct?
Yeah. Different companies such as Zoetis, and I can name 3 or 4 that have had PRP around for years. I'll give Zoetis credit. They have ProStride and different things, products like that have just been phenomenal for the equine athlete and the rodeo world in general. I think probably, I bet we see, or actually we don't see the injuries that we could see compared to the racing industry because of the different movements and athletic situations that the rodeo horse has to be put in. You're looking at a runner on the track, but in the cutting world and the breakaway world, the barrel world, you're looking at the turns, the twists, the stops. You think more of like
head
a
horse
football
leaving right
player
there,
or
getting his
basketball.
butt, having to pull something, then having to turn completely around. The breakaway horse coming at full speed and then punching them feet, and the amount of stress that their knees take and hocks. And
Exactly.
yeah, and then the heel horse being able to take some of those hits, especially when I think of as like Cheyenne. when you're just rolling, and some of those steers are beefs, 500-600 pounds.
Score.
And when they come around there and heel them big old giant feet with that horse right there, just taking that big old jerk. Yeah, there's so much that this industry of what we do that there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be required for sure.
Yeah, and I want to put a really good plug in for the veterinarians that we have today in the performance horse world, especially in rodeo, cutting, everything involved that is what we call the Western horse sports world. It has come so far in the last 20 years because you've got the guys out there that are, well, they're the capital of the world, cowboy capital of the world, Stephenville. You got those guys out there that have dedicated their lives to the rodeo horse, and it's made such a difference. And here's the thing that we see now back on east of the Mississippi: team roping has taken off like golf did when Tiger Woods came into the golf world 25 years ago.
You see it in the clinics I'm doing out here.
Exactly. Yeah. And the jackpots on the weekends. I mean, used to, when I first started roping, I started roping when I was 40 years old, and team roping. And you would have to travel a little bit to find a jackpot. Well, now every Saturday you can find one somewhere within, 50 miles of your house. So
This episode is brought to you by CoreVive. CoreVive has a great line of products that I believe in and use every day. Their product Hydrate isn't just for quenching your thirst. It's packed with vitamin C and zinc to give your immune system a little extra boost, especially in this Texas heat. I don't do a clinic, podcast, or a pre-workout without their product Energy. It keeps me locked in, it's convenient, effective, and it tastes great. Jackie and I drink it all the time. I drink it before I compete, and it's really good for those all-night drives. I don't have a post-workout without their protein. It's grass-fed, packed with collagen, peptides, amino acids, and has no chalky aftertaste. It's a great meal replacement or a way to rebuild after a hard workout. Core Renew covers all your gut health needs in just a single daily serving. New customers get 10% off their order by going to corevive.com/Crawford. See the podcast description for the link, or check the link in my bio on all my social media channels.
What about the supplements that you have that, we talked about feet, being a shoer, especially it seems like from the Northwest coming up where it's rained a lot and, them feet get soft and can get shelly. What are some of the supplements that can help with people that got feet issues?
one that we have that's actually, it's not a feed supplement. It's a product that mostly farriers use, and was developed by a top farrier at Root and Riddle Equine Hospital by the name of Dr. Scott Morrison. He's phenomenal. I think he was averaging putting on about 200 and something thousand sets of shoes a year up there in Lexington.
Makes my back hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, makes my everything hurt. So I've got 4 head of horses at home right now that I keep shoes on. The others I don't, but one of them is my wife's, and I'm the only one that keeps him shod. And we have a love-hate relationship, as you can understand. But yeah, that many sets of shoes makes me hurt too. But this product that Dr. Scott developed, it's called Caramend, and it's got chlorhexidine in it, which it was first developed for abscesses, but we also learned that it would help with white line disease. So that's one that you've seen a lot over your horseshoeing career as well. What I like about the product is it keeps that bacteria out. You can put it in the frog area to keep bacteria out of there. I like to use it on an abscess. So let's say you get an abscess, you take your hoof knife, you make that first little cut to see where it's at. You make your little press, you see the gooey, ooey, stinky stuff come out, and you know where it's at. So then you go to digging. Then you go to maybe rasping a little bit and maybe taking your nippers and trim around it a little bit, and then you find it. All right. You see where it's at. You hope it's coming out the bottom, but it may be coming out the top. Who
Mhm.
knows?
The cornet band.
Yes. So there's your big issue.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do, it's almost a putty type, but once you apply it, it hardens just enough to where you can rasp it. So that gets it in that area of where the infection has accumulated. Does that make sense? So with the chlorhexidine in it, you take care of that bacterial infection, and that's all an abscess is.
Right.
So you speed up that healing process in that abscess because, you can soak the foot. You can do it in Epsom salt. You can do it in, you can take it and use the vapors for different products and wrap the plastic bag on it. It's a lot of time consumption. But what I like to do, and I know you've used a baby diaper before probably with duct tape and a boot.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
you can
go down the air a tire or
exactly.
Get the rubber and
You
tape
bet.
it on there, and just trying to draw that thing out.
Yeah. So this product, you can mold it, you can fit it, you can rasp it, you can get that foot back to where it's got a chance to start going in the direction you want it to go without having to let it go in different directions that you don't want it to go. You want to keep that foot balanced while it's healing. You get a head start on it.
Yeah.
So again, and back to like foot growth, we have a biotin, product, with Arenas Animal Health. And, we've seen biotin products from 20 different companies. We have one with a a large level milligram biotin, which I think the more the biotin, the better, because biotin is what makes, humans' nails grow. If, you've been, again, an old farrier, you put your fingernails on a table like this right here, and there you got a horse's hoof. That's how they're standing, like that. So you get that growth, you get that strength, you get that strong, not chippy foot. You get something that, no foot, no mouth, no horse.
Yeah, feet are what's going to keep the legs under them. So keeping them feet healthy is a big important issue.
Exactly.
And, some are natural with it, and like I say, you're just trying to find the ones that don't have that they're lacking certain things, to where you're helping to get what that horse needs so he can perform.
I'm a firm believer that breeding has a lot to do with the foot too.
Yeah, yeah. What about some of the skin issues and allergies and things like that? What are some of the, we talk about shavings and things, with a certain amount of shavings that the horses might be allergic to, insect bites, scratches. What are some things that you guys have for those situations?
Yeah. I will bring up one product first and hit on it real quick. It's a product called Recover. It's used in the beef industry mostly, and we'll touch on that in a minute, hopefully. But it's a triple enamine. It's an antihistamine. It's kind of like, when you take your kids to the emergency room, they got something going on, whether it's they've broken out in a rash or they've got some respiratory something going on, heavy or hives or something like that. We're going to give them Benadryl. It's an antihistamine. It blocks those histamines from whatever's going on in the derm, whatever's going on in the lungs, whatever's going on in the sinuses or the tear ducts, the ears, whatever. It's going to take care of those issues. So this is an injectable. It's been around for, probably 25 years. It used to be a company that Zoetis acquired, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years or so, Fort Dodge. And they were Fort Dodge, Kansas. They were big in the cattle business, and they had a product that they developed for these droopy-headed sick calves that got off those pots in the feedlots. And basically all they needed was an antihistamine to get them feeling better. So back to your question with the horse, that you open that stall door in the morning, you look at him, and he looks like he got hit with a pellet gun by 15 8-year-olds. He's just got bumps and lumps all over him. Well, he's broken out in something. He's allergic to either something that got in his feed, something that was sprayed out of the misters, or shavings. Those are the three culprits in that. Seen it happen before. Won't name the places, but it happens. but there are certain instances where you could give this shot a recover, and in 20 minutes, those hives would be gone.
Mhm.
Then you got to replace the shavings, and you got to find the source.
You got to find out what it is. Process elimination after that, but there is at least so this recovery is what's going to help.
Yeah. So
basically an antihistamine that gets away all the.
You bet. And that is by prescription only through a veterinarian. Now, the things that you can buy over the counter are a product like what the Kinetic Vet EquiShield line has had for years is SA powder. That's a daily top dressing feed additive that is a naturally occurring antihistamine called quercetin, and it won't test. It's a naturally occurring substance, and you feed it daily, and what it does, it builds up antihistamines in the body. So these horses that are typically break out when they suck in air, you've seen them. They just get hives, from anything, being out in pasture, being around fescue, certain types of flowers, certain types of trees, pollen in the air. They're that horse. They have allergies. It can show up sometimes respiratory. It can show up sometimes dermal, but they're like kids. You take them to an allergy specialist and they have that test, with the board on their back and all these whatever bumps come up. Oh, this kid's allergic to dog hair, cat hair, sunflowers, daisies, grass, whatever. This can be fed daily and keep those allergic type horses at bay for most anything that causes those lumps, bumps, those patches of scaly rashes that they get, So it's a good product. It's probably our number one seller in the Kinetic EquiShield line.
What about scratches? This is something I've seen a lot, kind of with some of the trainers and things like that. Because once it gets it, man, it gets infectious, and you got to replace either the cinches or the boots or wash the heck out of them. But what about scratches?
Those get nasty. So it's funny you say that, because one of the first products that was developed through Kinetic Vet years ago was by Dr. Pierce and Dr. Pierce, Scott and Stewart, a product called Vetisan ointment. And basically it is a mixture of chlorhexidine. And we've known ever since probably World War I that chlorhexidine is the number one component to fight bacterial infections.
Because it's a fungus, basically, isn't it?
Fungus and bacteria. Yeah. So you got ketoconazole, which fights the fungus, and chlorhexidine, which fights the bacteria. And in conjunction with those two products, it comes in a salve. It comes in a spray. I like the salve because, one, it's safe. You can use it on yourself. You don't have to use gloves to apply it. You don't have to, you can wrap it, but for scratches, I just like putting it on and maybe keeping that horse in a dry lot for a little while. You can wrap it, but like you said, you can't put boots on that horse for a while. You can't. You've seen what scratches do, but I'm going to say
I've seen it where they just look crippled. They can't really, it hurts so much.
Oh yeah. They can't take one foot from the other.
Yeah.
They can't bend that fetlock. It gets so painful. So, and you get that a lot of time in the spring of the year from dew in the grass.
Moisture.
Yeah. Moisture. That's basically what's caused it. But, the Vetisan ointment or the spray, I would highly recommend for those. You're talking 5 to 10 days and you're cleared up.
Back at it.
Yeah.
When I was a young kid, we had a bald-faced mare, and she had a white face and white nostrils, and man, she just gets sunburnt and blister, and between maybe the green grass and then the sun, just whatever the situation is. What about some situations where or some products that help with those horses in the summertime that just their face goes to getting sunburnt?
Yeah, and those paint horses too, and grays. So we have a product in the EquiShield line, and it's, the one thing I love about the Kinetic Vet line, it's pretty simple because I'm pretty simple. It's called Sunblock, EquiShield SB. It's probably, well, I won't say probably, it does have the highest level of zinc oxide of any sunblock for horses on the market. And what we found out that, not only does the skin on those white face or white nose or around the eyes or different patches on a paint horse's shoulder or back get sunburned, but it's those hair follicles, that get into the derm that, they have no melanin. They're white, so they get burned as well. You can see them sometimes, like we peel as humans, but they'll lose that hair follicle and get down to the hide sometimes, to that, pink first layer of derm. And that can get pretty serious. You won't be able, especially those horses that are white around their shoulders or their back, or even you can't put a nose band or tie down on a horse that's got a bad sunburn across the, bridge of the nose or the muzzle. So, years ago, people used to try to go to Walmart or somewhere and find they thought that putting a baby sunblock would be the best thing to do, but there just wasn't enough zinc oxide in those products. So this one has a higher level, and it's more of a protection, than it is a treatment.
Got it. What about sarcoids? We talked about that earlier this morning and things like that of instances.
Yeah, we don't have a treatment for that, but this sunblock, some of those sarcoids begin with some type of.
And what is a sarcoid?
It's a cancerous lesion that usually has to be surgically removed. Like you or I would go to a dermatologist and have to have something either frozen, for a better word, burned, or cut surgically away from whatever body part you're talking about. But a lot of times on these grays, you see them in the rear end area, under the tail head, around the sheath of a stallion or a gelding, and they get so large sometimes that I know you've seen them to where there's just no help. There is an injection out there now. It's a vaccine, but I think the vaccine itself is around $1,500 a shot. So, there's only a certain level of people that's going to be able to afford to do that. But I do think that sunblock will help with that. A lot of these sarcoids that you see aren't really caused by any sun damage. It's just, it's breeding and probably, for a better word, it just comes with them.
Yeah.
Like my dad used to say.
What about just cuts? Just a horse gets caught in the fence, cuts himself, gets him whatever. However, the horses can find anything to find out how to cut themselves. But
yeah.
So just some easy maintenance on this, some products you have to help with, getting that horse healed back up.
We've acquired a product line called Banix, and it's been around for a while. Even in the pet care market, they make a line for cats and dogs as well. It's actually they also. I keep saying they are we now. They're under the umbrella of Creative Science and SEMA Animal Health. So I'm trying to
work on your new lingo.
Train myself to say that. Yeah, I'm not Kinetic Vet anymore. I'm Creative Science. So yeah, the wound care products that they have are typically a spray product, a mixture of products that you can use on anything from thrush to scratches can be used, and just your simple everyday cut. What I've been accustomed to with cuts is also using the Vetisan ointment and the EquiShield spray. So we've got two ways to combat it now, which is great. And they both fall into different economic levels of affordability for horse owners. So I think that's a good option.
What about some of the breeding things that you guys have? You have some other things under your umbrella too that,
yeah,
with the cutting, That's been around for a little
gosh.
bit, but we're starting to see in the rope horse world. Now we're starting to see, we're specifically breeding for head horses.
Right.
We're not specifically, we're starting to specifically breed for the heel horse, which is not much off of what a lot of the working cow horses and cutters are, but the head horse has been. Now we're starting to see certain breedings now that, we used to just get blowed up barrel horses or a next race horse or a cutting horse that got too big or a reiner, whatever it was. Well, now they're specifically breeding for this kind of horse. So what are some of the things you have going on there?
Well, another company that is with our family now is Exodus Breeders, and it covers the whole gamut of breeding supplies, from your lubes to your pipettes, your AVs, your phantoms, your semen extenders. Also, there's this product out there now that's called iSperm that you can hook up to an iPhone or an iPad and basically have your microscope right there and count and evaluate sperm. It's amazing the science and technology that has come so far from the days of when I first started in the business. You'd go to a breeding shed and, you'd have a couple of handlers there. You'd have, everything in the thoroughbred world is live cover. So you've got, the teaser mare, you got the teaser pony, you got the mare, you got the stallion over here standing in his station, and then you got six men or women all merging together to make this happen for live cover, because everything has to be live cover in the thoroughbred world. And then you've got the veterinarian right there taking the sample, in his collection right there. Then he takes it back up to the diagnostic lab, which is a circular encounter there in the breeding shed. He has to take the time, put the sperm underneath the microscope, sit there, look at it, evaluate it, count it, see if we got good swimmers, and then give everybody in the breeding shed a thumbs up. This mare's good to go. On to the next one. It's the factory coming in and out. So back to the quarter horse world, we have IA, so that world is, I won't say totally different. You still got to have a stallion and a mare, but the connection basically is done by humans, and then you've got the whole different portion of the reset mares, and when you have to go through that whole process. Like you said earlier, it's a whole new ball game. It's crazy. But for that atmosphere, like the stallion stations that you guys have down in Texas, we supply all those places. So everybody from Signature down there and Brazos and all those different areas, all the cutting horse people, we've got Exodus Breeders, and we've got everything that those folks need.
Awesome. Well, what about for some of the breakaway ropers? I don't know if anyone has gone to the sale lately and bought cattle. The beef industry has gotten explosive on what those things cost. We deal with that so much there at our place because the weather's so high and low. We got real bipolar weather there in Stephenville. We'll get 4 seasons in 1 week.
Right.
And so, that's hard on those calves. So what's some of the things that you have that can help with some of those calves that are going through some of those seasons?
Yeah. So a product we mentioned earlier, the antihistamine that's labeled for horses is also labeled for cattle. And years ago, at the feedlots, when I was working for Bayer years ago, I did a stint down in Hereford, Texas. And, as a 20-something, it's not bad to live in Hereford, Texas, because a 20-something can live anywhere. I lived in a horse trailer for a little while in college, so, I can sleep on anybody's floor. And Hereford, Texas isn't the metropolis of the world for a 20-something-year-old guy that's single. Even if you travel to Amarillo, you're still throwing darts in the dark. But anyway, that's my 30 seconds on Hereford. But those feedlots down there, a kid coming from east of the Mississippi, a feedlot for us when I was a kid, tops was 5,000 head. So, the first one I went to out there, I'll never forget the yard manager. I asked the stupid question, how many head y'all feeding? And he said, get up on that third rail and look out, and as far as you can see. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this many cattle in my life. A kid coming from Kentucky. So anyway, back to your point. When these calves get off these pots, you're looking at 50 to 55 head of calves that's been shipped from Kentucky to Hereford, Texas. Cattle coming from one climate, humid, hot, maybe going to Hereford at a time of year where, who knows, like you said, it may be 30 at night with the wind blowing with nothing.
Next day might be 90.
Next day might be 90. So, how do your kids get in that weather? They get the sniffles because they're hot one minute, they're cold the next. Same thing happens to those calves that get off those trucks and they try to put them on feed. You see those low-headed ones out in those pens. And those cowboys come back and say, hey, this one, let's say 14 out of those 55 have got a little or they're not drinking.
And those symptoms you're saying, they're not eating, they're off feed, they're hanging back from the other calves, their heads are low.
Yeah.
Bam, there's the one we're looking for.
We call those the ADRs. Ain't doing right. So what would you give your kid if they've got the sniffles or maybe, pediatricians always recommend some type of antihistamine. Get them feeling better, get them breathing to where they do want to eat. They feel good. Their temperatures may go down. And the good thing about recovery, you can mix this, give this in conjunction with Banamine. So you're controlling temperature, pain, and also respiratory issues at the same time. But if the antihistamine hits them first and they raise their heads up a little bit and they start hunting that feed bunk, then you've won. And the reason I say that is for a few years there, you've heard a lot about antibacterial or antibiotic resistance, right? Especially in kids and humans. Well, we've seen it in cattle too, because we're going to stronger and stronger antibiotics. So with that being said, they've gotten more expensive. So instead of breaking out and I'll just name names here because I buy them myself for my roping steers, bottle of Draxin costs as much as my first truck did, so instead of grabbing that $5 shot, you grab that, 30-cent shot to give them first. Now, the key to that is, and I know the Cowboys didn't like me for mentioning this to them when I was out working in West Texas the last time, but I said, look, guys, here's what you're going to need to do. And you can ask your veterinarian that writes the scripts here and takes care of these cattle and checks them and is there when you have a blow up. The second shot is the important thing. You want to follow up. So you want to make sure on these calves, let's just talk about yourself in general. Let's say you bring in 30 head of freshies. You're going to break them in. You're going to end up 3 days later with probably 2 or 3 not feeling good in your weather. So if you hit those 2 or 3 with recover, you got those histamines down. Maybe you have to give them a little, Banamine to get those temperatures controlled, get them back on feed. Mm-hmm. That's what we want. We want them eating again. We don't want them losing weight, especially in this cattle market. So that's the main topic with recover as far as cattle goes. You just, keep it simple.
So breakaway ropers keep some recovery around.
Exactly.
Because you're going to need it.
Yeah.
These calves definitely go through that this time of year in spring because that weather gets up and down.
Yeah. Again, with this product, it's a prescription only product, so you can only get it through your veterinarian. And one thing I would like to really reiterate with all of our product lines is that they were developed by veterinarians for veterinarians, And we really want to maintain, especially with the horse owners out there, please stay in contact with your veterinarians. Have someone that's always handy that you trust, that you know is a well-versed equine veterinarian, whether it's a simple wound or whether it's EPM or whether it's a joint problem. I can't stress enough how important having a really good equine veterinarian at your handy dandy touch, quick speed dial, baby. Yep. They're worth their weight in gold.
Mm-hmm. Now, where are all your products made? Because I know that's a big deal with a lot of people now that, with all these tariffs and things like that. We don't want to get too political.
No,
but I am an America First kind of guy. So I do like hearing when we talk about products, where's a lot of these places, where are a lot of your products made?
They're all made right here in the USA.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's something that I think we take pride in. I know when I was originally at Kinetic Vet, there was an issue probably 15 years ago with everything, every chemical compound, every raw material was coming out of Bangkok or Hong Kong or somewhere. And I know the upper echelon of the management for Kinetic Vet was having to travel there and work deals with, Chinese corporations that supplied raw material to the United States that could get to these pharmaceutical and nutraceutical manufacturing facilities in Kansas and, St. Joseph, Missouri is a big corridor. Kansas City, Shawnee Mission, Fort Dodge, Iowa, those places were, that's the heartland. That's where all the cattle were. That's where, all the, large dairy facilities, from Wisconsin down. And then you used to have a lot of dairies in Texas, even down in the Stephenville area. They used to be covered in dairies.
Mm-hmm.
But, that it got away from us, the raw materials. And what are the Chinese, people good at? They're good at chemistry and chemical compounds. So, that's a market that we've had to develop and bring back to the United States. And I think it's something that we take pride in.
Awesome. Well, where can we find and purchase a lot of these products?
So right now with this umbrella and family of companies, Kinetic Vet, Arenas, MSA, Banix, Exodus Breeders, and Asteria, they will be found on Creative Science on the web very soon in the near future under that name, and also under the umbrella of SEMA Animal Health. But right now, you'll probably have to go individually to each one, like kineticvet.com, arenas.com, EMSA, and Asteria, Banix, and so on to find these products. Like from my main experience coming from the Kinetic Vet family and now being associated for the last 6 months with Arenas, I know it's so easy just to .com them, go to their little menu page, get in your shopping cart, and boom.
Mm-hmm. And it's headed to your house.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate the time. I appreciate going over all these things. This is something that, for so many people getting into this industry, that's one of the things I enjoy about doing this podcast is, it was so hard for me learning all this stuff because it was through Hard Knocks. Being able to try to get some of the people that's their line of expertise to be able to have them on the podcast to walk us through certain things that, we can kind of become our own vet. At one point in time, when we're out there rodeoing, a lot of the helpers, like I'd say Cheyenne that works for Jackie, that girl's dang near, she didn't have any paper, but I guarantee you she could dang near be a vet tech.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a degree on the wall, but she does on Hard Knocks, because we've been out there so much. So, a lot of these kids that are going from high school now to college, knowing how to take care of your animal when certain things happen. If you're new to the industry and you're new to roping, knowing some of these products to where, you don't have to haul them to the vet all the time if you kind of know what products you can use to where it saves you money, to where you can do it yourself without having to go to the vet on every little instance. So we appreciate having that, that wisdom.
Yeah, well, especially on these products that I consider still available over the counter, that you don't have to have a script for from your veterinarian, but it's still good to have that close relationship to where You know, you said the key word a minute ago, speed dial. You know, these kids text back and forth all the time, and even I'm old enough now, I'm almost 60, that I could call some of these veterinarians kids. They're still my good friends. I respect them. I still call them Doc because they've earned it, even though they're 25. But being said, you know, you can text these kid docs in the equine world, and they're so knowledgeable, and they can get back to you in 15 seconds, say, here's what you need to do.
Awesome.
You know?
Well, man, we appreciate, too, everything you've been doing with Liberty and Loyalty. You know, our American Heroes celebration that we have in November, you've been there since the start. I think after we had our initiation of one, I think 2021, man, you've been there. You're right there with the guys. You've got a great relationship with them. Man, we appreciate your guys' support because, you know, I think it's cool where a lot of these companies are in this industry. We have a very strong connection with our military and our first responders.
Right.
You know, the great thing that I love about rodeo, we still pray before every event. Everyone takes off their hat. You know, we salute the men and women that keep us safe, and, you know, whether it's through wars or whether it's in our streets. And so we appreciate the fact that, you know, your guys' company supports our guys.
It's been, you know, I've been in this industry for 32 years, and I've done everything from the Breeders' Cup to the NFR finals, to the American, to the Kentucky Derby, Belmont Stakes, World Series of Team Roping. I've done it all. And this has been the most heartfelt and enjoyable and, for a better word, cause that I've been associated with in my 32 years of being in this industry, of being able to be a part of something that has meant so much to me. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, I appreciate you and your company. And one of the things that I always try to encourage people that are getting interested in, like, if you want to sponsor, great. Just come see it first, though.
Yeah.
You know, come to our gala on Saturday night. See the, you know, when we had O'Horny up there.
Yeah.
Oh, Todd Hornbuckle. Man,
Exactly.
what a great speaker. His story was so awesome, man. It was so impactful.
I bought his book that night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to be able to see the auction items we're able to create, you know, with Kinetic Vet, you guys bring in the Kentucky Derby tickets. Those have been a hot item every single year. Yeah. But that's the money we raise to be able to help build homes. That's the money that we end up raising where we help with the families that had somebody that was tragically murdered in the line of duty. You know, our firefighters that we're able to take care of that got killed in the line of duty. And so, you know, the money we raise also helps being able to have an impact on some of our wounded warriors that come back that need a home. Yeah. But also the sponsorship money that goes into this rope, and this also takes care of our guys that came back that maybe just needing that camaraderie. Yep. You know, when we have a $60,000 added military first responder roping, there's nothing else in the world that has that. These guys come from everywhere. You know, with Kinetic Vet, these guys got a chance to get the NFR experience. You know, on Saturday, I call it my regular season. Our regular season, you run 3 steers, and the top 15 make it to Sunday's NFR Showdown. So we have a back number ceremony for them on Saturday night, which you were there. How cool was that? Oh. Them guys got to get their back numbers in front of the sponsors, in front of everybody. That's what it felt like when we would make the NFR. So we're trying to create an NFR experience for these guys.
Those saddles, those buckles.
Yeah. And then now they got the bags, just like we have the NFR.
Exactly.
We've got pictures coming back where they had them on deployments. And so it's just cool to be able to see, you know, them get that experience. Well, then on Sunday, they are nervous.
I'm nervous for them.
Me too. Because they're out there in the back there at Cowtown Coliseum warming up with the NFR guys. You know, they're looking over there, and there's Caleb Driggers and Jr. Yeah. And then we had a special guest show up, Kojo. Kojo came where he can come rope with some of the guys. Now Kojo gets to be a part of this now, where he gets to
everybody.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. You know, where now they get to see the biggest country music star in the world. And he's as patriotic as all of us, man. That guy's bleeds red, white, and blue.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And so to be able to see these guys, you know, go in there in the national anthem, the grand entry, and get introduced, then watch the best guys in the world in an NFR setup, and then now they get a chance to go in there and mix it up with them. They get to run their short round steer, the top 15, live on the Cowboy Channel, X Factor, and the winner gets to make a victory lap like he'd have won the average of the NFR, and then coming down there, Katie Lucas interviewing him on the Cowboy Channel, and it was just awesome. You know what I mean? Like, these guys were just shaking. Even Kojo was shaking.
Oh, yeah, seeing their run on the big screen at Cowtown. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool, man. But like I said, that 60,000 that, them guys holding up that check for 30 grand, that was you guys. That's where you guys come in and help them with that experience. And so,
it's been
the
a
money
pleasure.
that they're able to make on it, and it's the appreciation. Last year we had a pretty good crowd.
Yeah.
My goal this year is to pack that bitch. I want to make sure that when them suckers ring the bell, I want them to feel what that feels like. So I encourage everyone, please come in, support these guys. We got so many guys now coming that don't even rope, military, first responders, just to be around their guys. So anybody listening to this, man, you don't have to rope to come to this, man. If you've been military, first responders, man, we want you here. Because it's been cool to see the camaraderie. You've seen it in the last 4 or 5 years. We got a couple guys came out here that have came with us to come to our Kid Rock event. And because I like having that camaraderie where it's outside the event as well to go do some fun stuff. But
it's done great things for those guys. You can see it, you can feel it, and the appreciation that they have, man, it's unbelievable what you've done with this, Charlie.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's something that's crazy that God can use anybody, and it's one of those things where He used what my talents were to be able to do something and be able to give back to do something that was beyond my wildest dreams, and so man, it's been cool to be a part of it. These are guys. My dad was a former Marine, and so. He instilled that patriotic bone in me, and so to be able to give back and use my platform to be able to help with this and so many different levels has been something that only God I can give the credit to.
Same here, and I tell you, I can't wait to see that Creative Science logo on that saddle this year. Can't wait.
Awesome, man.
Our guys in the home office are going to be so proud of that.
Yeah. Oh, well, Shano, he's in the Equibrand has kind of use a little bit of that skill bridge kind of program in a way of getting some of these military guys and stuff like that, where some of these guys are getting opportunities to go with them. And O'Shano, he's got the Martin Saddlery as this year's sponsors for our saddles. So
awesome.
So yeah, Martin's going to have that logo on there we're going to have some cool saddles this year for all the guys.
That's great.
Getting excited about the event in November.
Yep. Be here before you know it.
Yeah. You ain't kidding. There's a lot of planning that goes on with this thing. Well, we got our brand and our United We brand coming up in April, and so I'm excited. You're going to be coming out to that event and get to hang out with the guys now.
Yeah,
heck yeah, we got to do some cowboy shit now.
I'm all about that.
We're headed to the Crumpler Ranch up there in Wichita Falls, Texas, April 30th. So man, I'm excited. Crumpler is a good friend of mine, and so yeah, we're kind of going to some different places, and we even got a call from the Stewart Ranch earlier. They
awesome.
Listened to the podcast and reached out to me, and so possibly next year we might be heading up there. So it's going to be cool to start seeing some of the different ranches that are going to be able to start. Some of the name brand ranches we might get to start being able to affiliate with this, because we got 12 guys that come that have never rode before.
Right.
We have one of our guys under our umbrella of people that he counsels everyone, and so Blake Mallory, he's great dude. He's our rodeo clown too. He's funny, but he's one of the guys that does a lot of the work to help get these guys mentally back from some of the trauma that they've been through, and so. He brings 12 guys that never even been on a horse before. So we get to introduce them to the Western industry. We get them on a horse. We get to go, like say, sun come up, man, we're mounted, ready to go and go gather them, sort the cows off the calves, brand, vaccinate. So I mean, it's going to be fun to be able to see those guys, to be able to see what the Western industry can do. It's healing. I mean, it really is. Sure. It's so romantic to be out there. It's kind of what we were supposed to be, outside doing shit.
You bet.
And then we've got some of our ambassadors and founders through our program. They already rope, so those are the guys that get to drag the calves to fire and stuff. So
that'd be cool.
So that'd be fun. Yeah, some of the sponsors coming in and be able to, we all get to go hang out and just be cowboys together. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome. So it's fun to see the transformation. To where you mix the two.
I've made friendships over the last 4 years with some of these guys. Still stay in touch. Especially you. But there's been some others that become really good friends.
Yeah, solid guys, man. I tell you what, there's a group of guys that is crazy. I've never had that loyalty of where this dude's got, like, if he would take a bullet for you.
Sure.
I've never, not too many team ropers that I can say that about, so when you get around a lot of these guys, you're like, man, this is what loyalty feels like. These some bitches right here, friends to the core. And so it's pretty cool to see that bond. And it's going to be excited to go do some cowboy shit in April. So,
yeah.
Well, man, I'm looking forward to rescheduling these dates. I love coming down here. I love the South, man. I love coming down here. So, looking like maybe September, October, we'll be headed back down here for our clinic again. So,
yep, we're working it out right now as we speak.
Right on. Well, JD, I appreciate it, brother.
You bet. Appreciate you, Charlie.
Thanks for everything you do.
Yes, sir.
If you're interested in coming to a clinic this year, my 2025 clinic schedule is posted on charlycrawford.training. Go there and see if we are headed to an arena near you. If you're wanting to host a clinic, I have a few dates available. May 30th through June 1st, July 11th through 13th, August 29th through 31st, September 12th through the 14th, September 26th through the 28th. My October is open, and November. All the details and the easy sign-up form can be found on my website under the Clinics tab. If you have any questions, email me at charlycrawford.training@gmail.com.